which I think could be true, which is that the Living Single was a jumping off point for another huge sitcom on NBC, right?
Yes, yes, Friends.
Yeah.
President of NBC at the time, Warren Littlefield, had said that if there's any show that you could have bought this season, what do you wish you had bought? And he said, I wish I had bought Living Single. And strangely, a year later, Friends came on.
Living Single was the show that defined the 90s, a cultural gem that gave us friendship, love, and laughter. But behind the iconic theme song and groundbreaking representation was a storm fans never fully saw.
And I think, you know, when these white executives make these decisions on Black shows, when we have so few of them, it's almost like it's hard to not take it personally.
Kim Coles was threatened with fat jokes if she didn't lose weight, and TC Carson was abruptly fired after speaking out against cast mistreatment.
You ultimately left the show prematurely.
No, I got fired. I got fired. It wasn't that I got fired, it was the way it was done.
And sooner or later, Living Single was taken off air, shortly after Friends, a ripoff of Living Single, started. Let's get into full details of what happened behind the scenes of Living Single.
I didn't really know the show would be what it is, what it is for people and what it is for the culture. But I did understand that we had a chance to do something different.
For millions of fans in the 1990s, Living Single looked like the perfect sitcom package. Every week, audiences tuned in to see 6 friends navigating love, work, and life in a Brooklyn brownstone. The chemistry on screen was undeniable. Erica Alexander's sharp wit as Maxine Shaw, Kim Cole's bubbly charm as Sinclair, Queen Latifah's confident leadership as Khadijah, Kim Fields as Regine Hunters, and TC Carson's smooth sophistication as Kyle made the show feel like a cultural touchstone. But behind the scenes, things weren't nearly as harmonious as the laugh track suggested. Well, from the mid-1990s, there seemed to be issues that point to growing friction between the cast and Fox executives. A tension that often centered on issues of power, respect, and control, and even low-budget issues. Unlike Friends, which premiered a year after Living Single and received a massive marketing push from NBC, Fox treated its Black-led sitcom with less fanfare and, according to the cast, less respect.
So we were both on the same production, under the same production company, and it's clear that they were over there on the big lot, you know, and they were getting their $1 million salaries and their $1 million production, whatever that is. But that didn't stop us from still creating.
These decisions didn't just affect ratings and promotion. They bled into the atmosphere on set, creating a working environment where frustrations sometimes boiled over. The clearest sign of this came with the abrupt departure of TC Carson, who played the charismatic stockbroker Kyle Barker. His exit in the 5th season sent shockwaves through the fan base, but Carson himself was quick to shed light on what really happened. In multiple interviews, Carson explained that he had become something of a spokesperson for the cast. When negotiations or concerns came up, he was often the one to voice them directly to the network. At first, this might have seemed like a natural role. Kyle was one of the more seasoned actors on the show, and Carson had the confidence to speak truth to power. But from Fox's perspective, his assertiveness became a problem.
People are trying to make it seem like I had problems with them. No, the cast had issues. And when we would have issues, I wound up being the spokesperson for those things.
Carson put it bluntly, when you're the spokesperson for a cast, they can't really control you. So they decided to cut the ear off. His metaphor was striking. He believed Fox silenced the whole cast by removing the one person they felt they couldn't control. By firing him, the network effectively weakened the group's collective bargaining power. For viewers, the move was baffling. Kyle wasn't just a side character. He was part of the heartbeat of the show. His chemistry with Erica Alexander's Maxine was one of the most beloved arcs in the series. But to the network, Carson had become a liability. His firing was not just a personnel change, it marked a turning point in the show's energy and, according to insiders, deepened the mistrust between cast and executives. Alexander, who embodied the sharp-witted and unforgettable Maxine Shaw, confessed that his departure left her shaken. "I didn't even know how to be Max without you," she admitted. "It felt like someone ripped out my soul and told me to keep going." Carson wasn't alone in feeling targeted. His co-stars Kim Coles and Erica Alexander openly supported him after his exit. Both actresses hinted that the cast as a whole had grown frustrated with how they were treated, particularly as they watched Friends, a show with an eerily similar premise, explode into a cultural phenomenon, while Living Single was sidelined. Fox rarely gave their show the kind of promotion that could have elevated it to equal heights. Erica Alexander spoke candidly about this disparity years later, noting that Living Single often had to fight for basic recognition from its own network. Kim Coles echoed similar frustrations, pointing out that the cast felt undervalued, despite delivering strong performances and building a loyal fan base. Their defense of Carson wasn't just about friendship, it was about solidarity in the face of a system that seemed determined to undermine them. But Carson's exit wasn't the only controversy simmering on set. Around the same time, Kim Coles faced a very different kind of pressure. Known for her comedic timing and radiant, joyful energy, Coles was beloved by fans as the quirky Sinclair. Yet behind the scenes, she was dealing with harsh ultimatums from network executives. In later interviews, Coles revealed that Fox executives pressured her to lose weight, allegedly threatening her job if she didn't comply. She described the demands as relentless, with little regard for her talent, her comedic contributions, or her popularity with audiences. The pressure wasn't about storytelling or character development. It was about image, about fitting into a narrow definition of beauty that the network wanted to project. While reflecting on Season 1, Episode 12, where the characters on the show kidnap Queen Latifah's character, Khadijah, for a birthday road trip to Atlantic City, the two explain the chaotic episode and a cringeworthy joke that sparked the realization. In the car ride, a comment was made about something weighing the vehicle down, to which a blindfolded Khadijah responded, "You better not be looking at me." "It is a fat joke," Alexander exclaimed. Offset, that was a different battle that viewers probably laughed about. But Coles was glad they fought it off because she said she added weight every year, and it wouldn't have been easy for her. For Coles, that experience was definitely humiliating and exhausting. She did her best to maintain her professionalism, but the strain began to show. Midway through the 5th season, Sinclair was suddenly absent from multiple episodes. No explanation was given on screen. For a character so central to the group's dynamic, her disappearance was glaring. The absence fueled rumors of deeper problems. Some speculated that the network had followed through on its threats. Others whispered that Coles had clashed with producers or even with fellow cast members. Whatever the cause, the silence around her disappearance only made things worse. Fans were left confused, and insiders suggested that Coles's struggles with executives had finally reached a breaking point. The combined effect of Carson's firing and Coles' vanishing act painted a troubling picture of the set. While there were no reports of physical abuse or sexual misconduct, the pattern of network interference and heavy-handed control suggested an environment where actors felt disposable, mostly because they were blacks. In some ways, Living Single became a case study in how Hollywood often treated black-led productions in the 1990s. Talented casts were celebrated publicly, but undermined privately. For Kim Coles, the experience left scars. Even years later, when she was asked about her time on the show, her responses carried a careful tone. She praised the joy of playing Sinclair, but also hinted at the darker moments. The constant pressure to change her body for approval reflected a system that prioritized image over artistry. For TC Carson, the fallout was equally telling. While he went on to have a successful career in voice acting and stage work, his abrupt removal from Living Single became a cautionary tale about what happens when an actor challenges the system. His firing sent a clear message. Anyone who rocked the boat risked being cut adrift. Meanwhile, Erica Alexander, always vocal about inequities in Hollywood, continued to point out the broader industry issues that affected the cast. She often reminded fans that the struggles of Living Single weren't just about personality clashes or petty feuds. They reflected a deeper imbalance in how Black shows were supported compared to their white-led counterparts. But she wasn't far from the chaos, as by 2018, Yvette Lee Browser said executives wanted to take her off the show too in the early seasons, as they saw her as brash and too strong. But Browser threatened to quit, and that was how Maxine's role was saved.
2018, Yvette Lee Bowser, the creator of Living Single, revealed that executives wanted to cut Erica Alexander's character from the show. Do you know why that was? And do you think the show would have survived without Maxine?
This is unlike Kim Field's reason for leaving. Her exit from Living Single were reasons that went beyond the script. Field said that strain of personal transitions, navigating divorce, launching a production company, and quietly battling emotional fatigue were her reasons for leaving before the series wrapped. All of this turmoil came at a time when Living Single could have reached even greater heights. It had the talent, the stories, and the audience. But the behind-the-scenes battles drained momentum. Instead of being allowed to thrive on its own terms, the show became entangled in power struggles and executive agendas.
There are systemic inequities that are baked in to every place, and Hollywood is no different. It's a corporate structure. And so what you're seeing is something that we have to work on as a team in a nation.
As Living Single proceeded, executive decisions began to weigh heavily on the show, while Fox heavily promoted NBC's Friends, which premiered a year after Living Single. The Black-led sitcom was given fewer resources and minimal visibility, despite the fact it was obvious that Friends was an all-white version of Living Single. As obvious as this was, the Living Single casts were not given the acknowledgement that they deserved. Instead, they were treated as less.
I'm gonna ask you, do you feel like you've gotten the credit that Living Single has gotten the credit that you deserve for opening up the door for all of these shows?
What do the people say?
No.
Maybe not from the industry, but certainly from the fans.
Cast members repeatedly highlighted this disparity. Erica Alexander, in particular, pointed out that while Friends received billboards, primetime ads, large pays, and major press coverage, Living Single was quietly cycled through programming schedules without the same level of investment. Behind the scenes, by season 5, tensions rose over creative control. When there was a new Fox executive over time, they pushed for storylines to be softened or altered to fit a broader audience, a move that clashed with the writers' and actors' commitment to authenticity and initial plans.
I will never regret is speaking my mind about how I felt about what they were asking us to do.
The dispute came to a head with what insiders now call the infamous scene, a moment in the script that executives insisted be rewritten. The cast and creative team resisted, arguing that the change would compromise the show's integrity.
Again, you have people making decisions on our characters that have no clue about who we are or what our experiences are. So let me shut up.
The fallout was immediate. What should have been a defining scene for the characters instead became a flashpoint between the network and the production team. Although the cast delivered, the conflict signaled to Fox that the show was no longer aligned with its priorities. Soon after, executives quietly made the decision not to renew the series, possibly because Friends was a safe bet they had invested in. The controversy surrounding this moment was not isolated. Alexander, TC Carson, and others have since made it clear that Fox's neglect reflected a larger industry pattern in which Black sitcoms were often deprioritized, even when they were successful in ratings and cultural impact, and the big companies were just there for the money. In the end, Living Single's cancellation was less about audience reception, and more about the politics of television, who gets promoted, who gets protected, and whose stories are considered worth telling and the money rolling in. And at the center of many of those struggles was the shifting balance of power within the cast itself, particularly as Queen Latifah moved from star to co-producer. For Kim Coles, that shift would bring its own set of challenges, leading to whispers of a feud from fans.
Would you say the show was kind of built around Queen Latifah a little bit? Was she sort of the main star in a way? Or
It was built around Queen Latifah and Kim Coles.
Kim Coles. Okay, there you go.
They were the two main characters that they built everybody else around.
When you first started interacting with the cast and sort of seeing how, the show was about, what did you think?
Now, to understand what may have happened between Kim Coles and Queen Latifah, you have to start at the beginning of their friendship. When Living Single was first being developed, the role of Sinclair was not originally meant for Coles. The part had been envisioned for another actress, someone who also happened to be close friends with Latifah, rapper Money Love. Yet when Coles got the role after leaving In Living Colors, her energy was undeniable. She had a natural sparkle, a bubbly awkwardness that fit Sinclair perfectly. Even Latifah herself reportedly supported Coles getting the part, recognizing her unique comedic rhythm. Billing was as unique as its ensemble cast. Kim Coles and Queen Latifah shared top billing, an arrangement born from Fox's series development deal that brought them together on the same show. Originally, both actresses had individual deals with the network to headline their own sitcoms, but when those projects stalled, Fox combined their talent into one production. The result was a rare partnership that highlighted both stars equally. To maintain fairness, the starring credits in the opening sequence alternated between the two from episode to episode. In some cases, who received top billing depended on the episode's plot. Whichever character was more central to the storyline would take the lead in the credits. This creative approach not only honored the talents of Coles and Latifah, but also underscored the ensemble spirit of Living Single, where every character had a chance to shine, and they both shined through it together. That early support was also reflected later when Kim Coles faced one of her biggest challenges on the show, which was the pressure from Fox executives to lose weight. Coles revealed years later that producers warned her she'd be fired if she didn't slim down, even threatening to lace her scripts with fat jokes until she gave in. It was humiliating and dehumanizing. Yet in that moment, Latifah stood by her. As Coles recalled, Latifah went to bat against the network, telling them she wasn't going to do that. For a time, it seemed the two actresses were firmly united, friends who looked out for each other on and off set. And in many ways, they both had reason to be proud. Kim Coles wasn't just Sinclair, she was a rising black comedic star in her own right. Before Living Single, she had been a cast member on In Living Color, where her impressions and quirky humor got her noticed. She appeared on stand-up stages, in guest roles on popular shows, and quickly became a recognizable face in black comedy. After Living Single, she found steady work in sitcoms like One-on-One and The Gina Davis Show, while also carving out a path as a motivational speaker and writer. She represented resilience, someone who turned challenges into platforms. Meanwhile, Queen Latifah's star was ascending even faster. Already a Grammy-winning rapper by the time Living Single premiered, she was building a brand that extended far beyond television. She starred in films like Set It Off, 1996, showing audiences her dramatic range. She launched a production company, Flavor Unit Entertainment, and by the final seasons of Living Single, she was not just the lead actress, but also a co-producer, a rare feat for a young black woman in Hollywood during the 1990s. Latifah wasn't just part of the culture as she was shaping it. This shift in influence, though, changed the atmosphere. Friends at the start, Coles and Latifah now found themselves on opposite sides of a power divide. Coles was still a key member of the cast, but Latifah was increasingly the face of the show, both on screen and behind the camera. Industry insiders later suggested that Coles felt minimized. Her concerns about pay equity and character development brushed aside as Latifah and producers made more of the creative decisions. On paper, Living Single gave Kim Coles and Queen Latifah equal footing. But in reality, one person was far ahead of the other. Coles herself spoke cautiously about that period. She told interviewers that she was taking care of herself and admitted that not everyone got along. It wasn't a direct accusation, but many read between the lines. To them, her words pointed toward a growing rift with Latifah, who by then had the authority to influence storylines, casting decisions, and even which characters received more attention.
In her world, she's the one on stage, and even though she's maybe collaborating with another musician,
the contrast in their trajectories only made the tension more visible. Latifah was soaring, headlining films, releasing albums, and commanding new levels of respect in Hollywood. Coles, while still working, saw her role on Living Single diminish before she was written out of episodes altogether. None of this, however, erases the fact that Latifah and Coles were once allies. Latifah had defended her co-star when Fox tried to demean her with weight-based threats. She had been part of the reason Coles landed the role in the first place. But as Latifah grew in power, Coles seemed to fade from the spotlight, leading many to wonder whether friendship had given way to professional rivalry, or whether the pressures of Hollywood simply pushed them apart. These behind-the-scenes struggles weren't just about two women in conflict. They raised bigger questions about how network executives fueled disputes, how power imbalances within a cast could strain relationships, and how an ensemble show with so much promise could be undermined by decisions that had little to do with talent. The fallout from Coles's absence and Latifah's rise became part of a larger narrative about why Living Single ended when it did. A story that would later come to a head in what many fans believe was the decisive moment that pushed the series off the air. While Living Single spotlighted some of Queen Latifah's earliest on-set career conflict, even as a co-producer, her career beyond the sitcom would bring her into other high-profile conflicts, some rooted in Hollywood politics, others in personality clashes, and many in the broader struggle for recognition as a Black woman navigating the entertainment industry. One of the most discussed incidents came during the production of HBO's Bessie, 2015. Latifah's powerhouse performance as blues legend Bessie Smith was widely praised, earning her critical acclaim and awards attention. Yet, Monique, a fellow cast member who had previously won an Academy Award for Precious, publicly claimed that she had originally been approached for the role of Bessie. Monique later suggested that their communication soured after the casting decision, fueling speculation of behind-the-scenes tension. The fallout highlighted the cutthroat nature of prestige projects in Hollywood, where casting decisions often carried implications about influence, industry favor, and award season positioning. Even within Living Single itself, whispers of creative rivalry occasionally circulated. Latifah's Khadijah James was the show's anchor, but Erica Alexander's Maxine Shaw quickly emerged as a breakout fan favorite. Industry insiders noted that as Maxine's popularity soared, questions of creative balance and screen time sometimes created unease. Though both actresses maintained professionalism and avoided public confrontations, the undercurrent of competition underscored the challenges of ensemble television, especially for shows that centered multiple Black women, a rarity at the time.
You know, it's like, could we do an action film and make it look like something? Because that's what this movie is. It's a lot of action. I mean, we're shooting at folks busting through walls, jumping off buildings, like whatever. You know what I mean? It's like, can we do this and pull it off?
Latifah's transition into film also brought reports of friction. On the set of Set It Off, 1996, an action drama about 4 women pulled into a bank heist. Gossip outlets hinted at ego clashes between Latifah and Jada Pinkett Smith. Both were rising stars, ambitious and eager to define their place in Hollywood. While the film's success cemented both women as forces in cinema, the rumors reflected the inevitable tensions that can arise in ensemble casts where each actress is fighting for recognition. Also, these conflicts weren't always actor to actor. Latifah frequently clashed with television executives, particularly at Fox. She accused the network of undervaluing Living Single, despite its cultural impact, and failing to give it the same promotional energy devoted to Friends, which was kind of true. That sense of being sidelined by executives carried into later projects as well.
I think it's a constant fight. I don't think there's by no means is the fight over.
During the run of the Queen Latifah show, which was canceled by Sony Pictures Television after just 2 seasons, made it impossible to avoid staff being laid off, and Latifah had to pay them off with her money. This is the second time a talk show like this by her is ending abruptly after the first in 2001. Her name also surfaced in connection to other rumored disputes in the early 2000s, including a reported falling out with Vivica A. Fox tied to a failed ensemble film project. Though neither star ever confirmed the story, the fact that they never worked together afterward only fed the speculations even more. Taken together, these episodes paint a picture of Latifah as both a trailblazer and a fighter. Many of her clashes weren't simply about personality. They reflected the larger struggle for equity, respect, and agency in an industry that often sidelined Black voices. Whether in disputes over creative control, tension with fellow actresses, or battles with executives, Latifah's willingness to assert herself shaped not only her own career, but also the legacy of Living Single and the visibility of Black women in television and film.